Ladies and gentlemen, bottom mosquitoes and bullet ants, good morning. And as you can tell by the sound of my voice, I'm a bit hoarse, so I've been kind of fighting off a bit of a URI. I won't say it's too nasty because apparently I can still speak. But in the meantime, yeah, notice I didn't use my hand. In the meantime, you know who I am, and you know what this is, and you know the time. For the uninitiated, I am Red, aka Shaka, sub moniker Black Magic. This is the other side of the ropes. And no, you did not wander on this thing. Chances are, if you did, I don't know what the heck you were taking. But on the flip side of that, this is the online video column, so to speak, pertaining to independent wrestling or wrestling on the independent level from, of course, the viewpoint of an independent wrestler, i.e., myself. Now, for those of you who've been keeping track recently in a few weeks, I covered a thing that was coined by one Rowdy Roddy Piper as the sickness. In fact, last week, I even threw in the bit I like to call Piper's Law that pertained to said sickness, and also threw in what I like to coin as the Bill Watts corollary. And if anybody needs me to quote it, Piper's Law is the amount of sickness in the wrestler is in direct proportion to the level of manipulation of the promoter. These are the guys you got to worry about. Yeah, the guy booking you. Well, Alicia did about 20 to 30 years ago on Beck. Now, not so much. The Bill Watts corollary to that is, and maybe a handful of people, especially in the generation coming up now, might understand this. Maybe they won't. Who knows? But the corollary to that is by Bill Watts, and it goes as follows. Work or shoot, it's still competition. Now, a little bit more simpler, but nonetheless, it's probably just as complex. Now, I'm going to go work with the Bill Watts corollary. This is the one thing I notice about the business now. Having stepped out of it for a brief moment in time to train for one mix, well, actually, no, I take that back. Although I had one fight in mixed martial arts, I actually trained for 3. I'll explain. Pennsylvania just got cleared to have mixed martial arts competition. I noticed I spelled that out because MMA is becoming too much of a blanket term. Let me make something clear about mixed martial arts. Okay, the reason why they call it that, the predecessor behind that sounded a little bit too violent, which was no holds barred fighting. They threw in a few more rules to refine the whole thing. And let's face it, it is mixed martial arts because you're using more than one discipline. A lot of guys who find a lot of success, like high level collegiate to Olympic level wrestlers. Randy Couture was one of them because he was on the '96 Olympic team prior to going in. His first fight was in 1997, and for those of you who don't know, you can check it out. It was still in the Super Fights format, and his first match was against Tony Halma, who most people in professional wrestling know him as the late Ludwig Borga. But the credibility here was Tony Halma, actual claim to fame, his athletic background was actually in boxing. He was a former champion from Finland, and he was a former national champion from Finland for boxing. So this is back before people started refining MMA for what it is now. MMA now, you have guys who actually seen the success of the grappling for collegiate wrestling and as well as Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu thanks to the Gracie family, namely Royce and Renzo. Royce and Royler were the two guys who actually started doing it with no gi. Royce did it with a gi. You can go back and check. You had guys that were cross-referencing all the grappling arts. But this is the thing I've noticed. I find it very interesting that, and I can actually back this up because some of the I post a lot of links from a particular website that involves mixed martial arts, and I actually show a lot of grappling from it. And quite honestly, if you check out one of the top-notch competitions for grappling, the ADCC, the Abu Dhabis for short, every year, and this is how Eddie Bravo. If you don't know who Eddie Bravo is, shame on you. This is the guy who pretty much brought no-gi grappling to light, or no-gi jiu-jitsu to light, when he beat Royler Gracie a few years back in the ADCCs back then, using his style of jiu-jitsu called 10th Planet. And mind you, he was trained by a traditional jiu-jitsu master by the name of Machado. Well, you have Hegan, and you have oh boy, any other time I wouldn't blank out, but you get the idea. But you check out Jean-Jacques Machado was his master, and this was in traditional gi. Now, this is the thing I've noticed: grappling, be it catch as catch can, sambo, luta libre, not lucha libre, luta libre. This is Brazilian. Let me see. I said sambo. I said Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Catch as catch can. Doesn't matter what the grappling style is. Have evolved. In wrestling, nada. Guys, if you want to be taken seriously, you're really going to have to change your tune. And I speak on behalf of all of my frat brothers. This gives you an idea of just how sequestered we are, or I've said it before, how we've had our heads buried in the sands like ostriches. I'll put it that way. Because usually I would say we have our heads so far of our collective asses that we're not seeing this. I mean, let's face it. We're still trying to do the same thing. We're trying to bring things back from the past 25 years. We're trying to reinvent something that's already been there for the past 15 years. Really, we're not doing anything but repeating the shit. And wondering why we're not being taken seriously. And wondering why nobody's getting a draw. Because we're trying to act like we're still on television, when in most cases we aren't. We have the opportunity, unlike our forefathers who have been on the road countless hours, countless miles, days on end, as of part of what was known as Piper's Law, the sickness. And none of our training has been refined. None of our techniques have been refined. And if you tell me that our techniques have been refined by saying, oh, we found a new cool move, I would bitch slap you myself, because that doesn't refine a damn thing. It doesn't. Okay? When you refine a technique, I don't see anybody trying to counter, and I've thought about this for years. I haven't seen anybody try to figure out a way to counter, say, a vertical suplex. But then again, nobody thought of it. I mean, I can think of a couple of ways for it to happen before you even get into it. But now, midway, sure. But nobody really understands the mechanics. Because as much as I hate to say it, and people can get on me about, you can call it getting out of kayfabe, what? Screw you. That's already been done. If you got the rise and fall of WCW, ECW, and all this other stuff, you got tell-alls, you got shoot interviews, you got all these tell-alls from all these different books. I even throw out a few myself. I should slap half of you people by now. Okay, stop it. All right, look. You got people trying to sit up there and be spot monkeys. For those of you who don't understand, don't worry about it. People know who I'm talking about. They know what this applies to. I'm not talking about spot monkeys. Some people will probably think of it that way. Hell, I would have thought about it about 10 years ago. But no, actually looking back on the whole thing, when you actually see a legit takedown and say grappling competitions, doesn't matter if it's judo, doesn't matter if it's sambo, there are actual techniques to counter these things. And the entries and all this other stuff is mind-boggling. This is something we have yet to touch on. And I've even tried to show this stuff in actual rings. I mean, in an actual match. Blows a lot of people's minds. This is going to take a while. But you know what? Like I said, in the following year, this may or may not be the year where I might piss off a few people, and I frankly could care less. So, I mean, I may talk about it here. And by the way, next week, stay tuned. 7th anniversary of The Other Side of the Ropes. I might rehash some stuff. I might not. I don't know. Even I'm not too sure myself. I mean, even to quote the great Roddy Piper again, just when you think you have all the answers, you change the question. Just saying. But I know usually I do detect the shout outs by this time. I notice a lot of people have missed. I probably noticed that I haven't done it the last few weeks. There's a reason for that. It has anything to do with time content. I can throw it back, but you know what? I choose not to because of the gravity of the situations at hand here. And I'm trying to address them. Now, I'll get back to it. But right now, I'm pretty sure the people I knew I shout out to, they knew who they are by now. And if they don't, I'll be more than happy to remind them again and again. But for 3 solid months, maybe more, they can use a break. Seriously. And some of the ones I actually shout out, I know some of them may not appreciate it. Some of them may not even know about it. They haven't even acknowledged it. It's cool. But just to let them know I think about them. But like I said a couple of months ago or a month and a half ago, I never forgot where I came from. Now, they might have forgotten or they might have taken it lightly how I feel about it, but I express it the best way I possibly can. And this even goes to the people overseas. I'm just saying. And, you know, that's just the stuff I like to bring up on occasion. You know what I mean? It seems like I'm rambling, but I'm not. Actually, I'm actually kind of getting a few things off my chest at the same time. But I'm not going to drag it out any further. I just hit past the 12-minute mark. And quite honestly, it's after 1. I'm home. It's been over in almost a half hour. And a brother is starving. And even if I go to sleep 2 hours from now, I still can't function with too much in my system. You know what I mean? Just saying. So on that note, stay tuned. Week after next, we do Top Rope Wrestling. Unless we close it for our Top Rope Radio. Unless we close it out for the year. Who knows? But in the meantime, stay tuned next week. And we'll come back and we hit this again. 7th anniversary? Who knows what I might do? Even I'm not too sure at this point. But I can guarantee you what? My voice will be back and intact the way it was. And that might play hell in a few other people's ears. But that's not my problem now, is it? I'm out. Peace.